Today I wanted to discuss the subject, emotions, truth and judgment. With an E, is it, in Australia, I think? With or without? Emotions, truth and judgment. The reason why I wanted to talk about this subject is that many people become so afraid of speaking truth because they then feel that they're judging people. Many people also become afraid of hearing the truth because they feel that somebody who's telling them the truth is judging them. And most of the truth and judgment are only going to enter us emotionally anyway. So this is why I wanted to talk about the relationship between emotions, speaking the truth, and then the feelings of being judged or judging others. Now, in the first century, I talked a lot about judgment because judgment is one of the main ways in which you get controlled. So when you think about it from your childhood, every time you got judged for doing something, sometimes you did things innocently, right? So in pure innocence, you went ahead and did something, and then there was a huge amount of anger or rage or other kinds of emotions, sadness sometimes, and other types of emotions projected back at you because of what you did. And as a result of that in your childhood, you then learned how to act in many cases. So many times you didn't need a belting to be controlled. What you needed instead was just to be judged. And then you learned from that judgment what was acceptable from a social perspective or from a family perspective or from a religious perspective or from any of these other perspectives, politically, economically and so forth. Once you get judgment, all of these areas you can have enter you emotionally, these emotions that cause you to act in a manner that is actually in a very controlled manner, where other people can now control you. Now, we can obviously speak the truth to somebody and judge them in the process. And we can also speak the truth to somebody and not judge them at all. So we need to determine what's the difference between speaking the truth and having the feeling of judgment enter me, or the feeling of judgment for another person. Now, if we just remember what the soul is, so let's remember we're a half of a soul, so this is my masculine half of the soul, my spirit body, my material body. All right, spirit body, material body, or physical body, and there's my soul. That's the real me, remember? So what actually happens at the soul level, so if we rub out these things, because these things are just appendages, as we were talking about on the weekend, these are just appendages to the soul. I'm just going to swap this over so that it goes into another one. So now when I go like this, it doesn't make a noise. All right, so what we want to do is look at the type of influences. Now, we all know that there are, many of you who have been along now for a while know that there are two types of influences on the soul. There's the truth influence and the error influence, right? And these influences enter you as emotions. So they enter you as emotions. Now, as they enter you, that then constructs within you a labyrinth of emotions. Emotions, some of which are based upon truth and some of which are based upon error. Let's give you one based upon truth. One based upon truth might be an emotion where you have in yourself this thing that happens that if you lie, you have this terrible feeling overcome you. Right? So that's an emotion based on truth, because whenever I lie, my conscience then bothers me, and there's this soul feeling that comes up in me that I've done the wrong thing, and I have this feeling inside of me that I need to correct that in some manner. And that's an emotion based around truth, where I've got this moral compass inside of myself, and that moral compass motivates me to live in harmony with the truth of it. On the other hand, I've got error-based emotions. One of the error-based emotions might be a truth that I believe about myself. For instance, that I feel that I'm a bad person. And no matter what anybody tells me, somebody can say, well, no, you're not all bad, and you're not, you haven't, what about this? This is a good thing in you, and that, what about that? That's a good thing in you. And it doesn't matter what anybody tells us, we still feel like we're a bad person. So that's an error-based emotion now that's living in my soul that I believe to be truth. So all of these emotions now have entered me. So you could think of your soul, which I'll draw a little differently now. You can think of your soul as this container, right? And the container is full of emotions. What other things is it full of? Passions, desires, intentions, all those kind of things, right? And the soul is full of all of these things, some of which of these things are based upon truth as God sees it, and some of these things are based upon error as God sees it. But from our perspective, most of the time, they're all based on truth. So God sees some of the things as error and some of the things as truth, but a lot of times we see them as all truth. Otherwise, we would never have allowed them into us, would we? Unless we would have thought that. So, for example, if I have an emotion in me that I am basically worthless, that I believe to be true, I'll believe that with all my heart. But it's actually an error from God's perspective. But I'll believe that emotion to be true. And I might have another emotion that it's a wrong to lie. And that emotion happens to be in harmony with truth, in harmony with the way God feels about how we live our life. So that emotion then is harmonious with truth. But the problem is, we think that all of the emotions are harmonious with truth inside of us. And often, other people come along and tell us things and interact with us in certain ways that expose the fact that they are actually errors, because the only way you can really tell that the soul is in error is due to pain. So when I'm feeling pain, that's an indication that my soul's in error on that particular subject. Does that make sense? So pain is like this indicator. And I'm not talking about physical pain, although physical pain is incorporated in it. But pain itself, emotional, physical, spiritual pain, all of those pains are all an indicator that my soul has a belief, an emotion, a passion, a desire, or an intention inside of it that is actually based upon error. Because if it was based all upon truth, there would actually be no long-term pain at all. There would be no suffering at all in my soul. Right, so we know that's the case. So let's build on that now in terms of what's happening inside of us.